You know, cybersecurity, we talked about that a little bit. We talked about governance earlier in the morning. We talked about risk management. I know there was a question. And we continue to talk about the evolving landscape of cybersecurity, AI, and how all of it ties together. So it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage to facilitate our next conversation, Eddie Borrero, VP and CISO at Blue Shield of California. Eddie.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yeah? All right, I'm recording this whole thing with my glasses, so we're going to bring AI back to the stage. All right, so can you guys just like stand up and scream so we can, you know, promote high tech? There we go. Get the energy up. I love it. I love it. I love it. Love it. That's going to be on a video someplace, like a little clip on LinkedIn or something like that. You want to do yoga? Was that our yoga exercise? It was a little bit of getting the blood going because, you know, I want to make security a little exciting. And, you know, before I invite everybody on stage, I want to say one thing about high tech. You know, we've been talking about high tech being this place where we grow together and where we help people come from the classroom to the boardroom, right? Where we're architects of growth. And I was introduced as the VP and Chief Information Security Officer of Blue Shield. But high tech has changed my life. I'm no longer the VP and Chief Information Security Officer of Blue Shield. I'm the Chief Information Officer and Senior Vice President of Blue Shield of California. Thank you. And I'm also that same role in a startup company called Stellaris. And so high tech has changed my life, and I want you all to see a great example of what can happen in these rooms. You learn how to lead, you learn how to promote yourself, you learn how to do hard things, and you learn how to dream big. Because when I got here, I never thought about being a CIO, and now I can't stop thinking about being a CEO. And so it's gonna happen. Anyway, with that said, I wanna introduce some special guests. So Rob, Liz, Miguel, why don't you come on stage? We'll get you all situated, and you can introduce yourself a little bit. But you know, we talked about artificial intelligence all day today. And we talked about how it could change lives and change careers and change jobs. And we got a bunch of security experts up here, and we're going to talk about the dark side of artificial intelligence, the scary stuff, the things that keep people up at night, and how it's changing the role of cybersecurity in today's day and age in every industry. So with that said, let me take a little seat. And I'll start with Liz. Why don't you introduce yourself and a couple of minutes to tell everybody who you are.
Okay, wow, my glasses are a little foggy, so
mine too.
Apologies if I'm looking like a little confused. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to talk about this topic today. So I've been in financial services for over 25 years. I'm going to stop at that number and keep it there. The last decade I spent at BNY Mellon as their cybersecurity COO, an incredible experience and opportunity. I was able to scale the division from about 18 people to over 600 in like 12 countries. So a lot of fun there. And so now this is I want to say my version 2.0. I'm no longer at BNY, but I'm looking for opportunities on my own to leverage my experience and, I don't know, stay in security and leverage AI to do it well and fast.
Oh, it's going to happen. I can't wait to see your next jump.
The business of security is so important.
It's beautiful.
80% of the game. Hey, everybody, my name is Rob Duhart. I serve as the CISO of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Many of you say, what is that? And that's not a bad thing. Think AWS, just maybe a little older. Been in the business for a decent amount of time. I know some folks in the crowd already from past stops, healthcare, technology, you name it. I asked the question earlier in the room of, did we think this would be what it is today 20 years ago? And I didn't, but I've been really grateful for the journey. I'm grateful to be here with you all to talk about AI and how we're provisioning it across our organization, how we are the backbone of most of the AI workloads that are going on in the world right now. And then how do we help people grow and leverage AI in the right ways and protect their organization simultaneously? So really excited to be here with you all.
Awesome.
Thanks, Rob. For those who haven't met and talked to you yet, I'm Miguel Crespo, the Chief Information Security Officer at Becton Dickinson. Some of you may ask, what is that? So BD is one of the largest medical device providers in the world. servicing more than 7.5 million patients on a daily basis, everywhere from blood infusion, cell analysis, and you could think of anything left to right in a hospital, there's probably a BD product enabling it. And as we think about this topic that we're talking about and just technology in general in the medical, health, life sciences, business, right? That is where the next 10 years of jumps happen in 5 minutes, right? And, really being at the core of an organization that's really thinking about how to take what happens in a hospital and bring it to your bed at home, right? And like where that is going to go, and seeing AI in the middle of it, it's such an exciting piece of work, because at the end of the day, the mission remains, securing the patient to the healthiest outcome that they can, and that really is kind of, at the center of what we do at BD. So really excited about this conversation, really excited to bring that lens to it as well, and we've got a great group of friends here to go have that conversation with. So thank you.
That's fantastic. Oh, great to see you all again, and I'm so happy to do this with all of you. Well, let's start. Let's talk about how do you see artificial intelligence, especially generative AI, agentic AI, changing the threat landscape for the world today? So Liz, maybe we'll start with you on this one.
Oh, God. So definitely AI has revolutionized it. Especially, it's changed our lives as well from a security perspective, but for our threat actors, it's made it a lot easier for them to try to fool us, right? So I think it's definitely, it made the threat landscape a lot more complex, right? Because we've got faster, more automated things coming at us that we probably can't even keep up with. So I think it's made it more complex, but at the same time, there's opportunities for us to learn and grow so that we can stay ahead, making us a little bit more proactive rather than reactive.
I think you said it perfectly in the context of low-hanging fruit becoming lower, right? So I was on the phone with the CISO at OpenAI, Dane, some of the work we do together for Stargate right now in UAE particularly. And what we found is that the threat surface that used to be reserved for, highly sophisticated or nation-state actors is now reachable in mass by you, right? By the people in this room, by, someone that has access to ChatGPT or whatever it may be. And so that democratization of the technology has shortened the time we have to defend, and also raised the bar on what it means to defend that which is emerging. So I mentioned Stargate, right? We're a part of this engagement to build some AI data centers in the Middle East. And so we're thinking about, right? Like, what will the threats of 5 years be? Because that's how long it takes to build one of these data centers, right? And it's proven really challenging in this world of AI. There really is no high-hanging fruit anymore. Pretty much everything is fair game, and that's challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I love the process you brought up, right, about like how quickly now the adversaries can get as smart as someone who spent 15, 20 years. When we talk to our executives, and I might be aging myself when I talk about this, but if you think about movies like The Matrix, where someone's like, I don't know how to fly the helicopter. And they type something in and it downloads the helicopter instructions, all of a sudden they're a pilot, or they're a kung fu artist. It's exactly like what it's doing if you think about it from that perspective. And then there's also the conversation to be had that with any technology, and AI is the new thing, cloud 4 years ago, something before that. For every 2 things it does well, there's going to be someone that can turn it and do something bad with it. And that you always have to have that mindset of 80% of it is going to be good, 20% of it's going to be bad. Unfortunately, we live in the world where that 20% is 100% of our day.
That's right.
Right? And I think that's what it's changed, but I think what it's also done is, I think it really revolutionizes our role as it further impacts the fact that we have to be business enablers, because you don't want to be the one sitting in front of the AI train going, we're not doing that. Right. We're not ready for that. It's too late. It's already gone.
It's here.
It's here. Yeah. Right. So,
we had a great conversation in the green room, and Miguel shared a great story. I'm going to ask you to share it here in a second. But just imagine a day, which is today, where you get a phone call, a video call, FaceTime from your mom or your dad or a loved one, and they're saying, hey, send me $1,000. And it's them right there, and you're like, why? I'd never send you money, but I really need it. And they talk to you in a way that compels you to give money. Now, corporations are dealing with this all the time, and we're talking in the millions of dollars. So, we've seen scams where emails come in, and it's like the CFO is asking for money. Now, these are video phone calls coming from your CEO, and you have no clue. Even though there's like some people trained in here on how to find a deepfake, which I challenge that to be true. I would say, the world is changing. I mean, there's a lot of good there. But why don't you share your story that you had with your board?
Yeah, so, we start our board meetings always with like a spotlight of something that isn't like looking at the metrics or looking at some platform or some chart, right? And we just have kind of what we call as like a learning moment, first kind of 15 minutes of the board discussion. And I took one of our board members' YouTube videos, right, that they were speaking about something totally about something else, and put it in a program called 11 Labs, very available to everyone here, can go to it, right? Downloaded that video, changed everything that person was saying to say some of the worst and most hateful things about our company, and then translated in 17 languages in 5 minutes in front of everyone in the room, right? And that created the conversation. There's nothing more to be said. There's no metric I can show them. There's no chart I can show them. I don't care how many emails I tell them we block or how many, you just changed it and like that. And the first question, well, how do you stop something like that? I said, that's a great question. There's not a good answer, right? You can educate people, like you said, Eddie, on a deep fake. But if you take someone that now has the intelligence to understand the organization, understand that position, and understand the words to use, and then you think about like the large amount of outsourcing that happens, you can't extend the context of the organization past all that. Then add cloud on top of that, add mobility on top of that. It's just showing the landscape and what that is and how quickly you could do that. That would take a video lab 5 years ago. That would take all kinds of sophistication. It takes 10 minutes. I tell it what to say. I tell it the video. I tell it how many languages I want it in, and it's out in 5 minutes.
Without having to hire 50
Without having to hire 50 people or know anything.
So good. It just reminds me of the old adage that people won't remember what you say, but they'll remember how you make them feel. And as technologists, that's true. Like, we got to make sure our business partners and our boards understand in a way of feeling. And demonstrations like that really drive home the message. And when I think about our roles as security practitioners and technologists, we have a role to play in enabling the use of this great technology. And we get paid a lot to think about the bad things that happen and to try to figure out how to enable a business to do the things we've been talking about all day today. Because there's some real risks when it comes to using artificial intelligence within a business. So maybe I'll start with you, Rob. Let's talk a little bit around how you see the role of a CISO enabling the use of artificial intelligence within a business, and maybe even accelerating the deployment, the usage, and the creation of more ability with artificial intelligence as it's baked into products and services within a company.
I love the question, Eddie. And we talked a little bit about this behind the scenes, right? Security as an enabler, right? Security as an accelerator of the business. When you do it right, we help you move faster, not slower, because you build security in and you're able to deliver more and better. I'll use a tangible example. I won't name the company, but if you look at my background, you can guess. We had a situation, and this is actually in the open source, you can Google it, where all of a sudden ChatGPT became a thing. And Samsung famously had an issue where a bunch of IP was potentially compromised by engineers who were trying to do the right thing, that were trying to use the technology to make life better. And so we pretty quickly used our proxy to block access to any AI technologies open source, right? So we were able to, thankfully, as an enterprise, to basically say no to the entire enterprise, right? And that was the first answer, not the final answer, right? Because very quickly, we said, okay, we've stopped what's going to potentially cause people to harm themselves. How do we create a sandbox where they can help themselves? Like, how do we partner with the right organizations to take all of the open source technology that our engineers want and need to use to be competitive and to do amazing things, bring it in-house, sandbox it in a way that it can't do us harm, that we have the right security controls, we have the detection and response we need, we can do the right forensics, and then enable it for the organization. So within 30 to 45 days, we released what was called the AI Sandbox, which had all the appropriate controls. We even built an AI red team, right? Because we wanted to be able to go and do what we were doing on the rest of the enterprise in this sandbox and more broadly. And you know, if you do a little Googling, you will see that the organization that did this is now very much at the forefront of implementing AI, not just for search engines for retail, but potentially across the entire supply chain spectrum as well. It's really incredible what enabling engineers to do what they know they need to do to begin with safely and securely can do for a company. And I thought it was a phenomenal example of what you asked.
If I could just add to that too, that's the importance of, you know, having security at the table early on. And we were talking about this a lot, right? The sooner you bring security to the table, and they should always be at the table, right? Communicating what's going on. We should be, as security professionals, really transparent with leaders about what they should be thinking about as they're looking to grow and expand and things like that. Different markets that they want to go into. So the conversations have to be often had, right? Because then what happens is, you know, the business will come in towards the end and say, oh, well, we can't stop this. We have to release this product. Well, we didn't have the right people in the room when it really mattered, right? So again, it's really important, that communication all the time with legal compliance, right?
Yeah, all about trust.
We always
All about trust.
We always talk about, like, do you show up at the table with the solution or do you show up at the table with more problems?
That's right.
Right, so you, like, the sandbox was the solution. You solved you stopgap the problem by blocking it, but you're not going to block that forever, and people are going to circumvent it, and all those things happen. So how quickly do you show up with the solution that makes everybody go, okay, this is why you should be at the table, because you're solving the problems. You don't add it by just bringing another set of findings or another reason it's no, right? Yeah. We always talk about it. We always talk about on my team. We don't put the no in innovation, right? So let's make sure that we're seen as we should be at the table to bring that.
And then we start using it too.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, our teams start doing amazing things with the technology. As we said before, the threat actors are doing it. Why not us?
It's great. Just a quick question. Show of hands. How many in the room are CISOs or are on a cybersecurity team? Show of hands.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Good.
Pretty good. You know, I think this is true for security practitioners and technologists alike. Now, we talk about how do we accelerate a business's journey with security? How do we take make sure we're not the no in innovation? I love that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I'm
steal
stealing
that
one too.
How do we
stealing it.
enable a company?
Copyrighted.
And you know, my lesson over the years, and I'll share this with all of you, is you cannot fight and complain and ask to be in the room enough. Like, that's never going to happen. Like, you can say, I want to be there, put me in the room. It doesn't really work, at least in my experience. What really works is you build relationships with your business partners, spend time with them, take them out to coffee, get to know them, get to know what they're trying to do, help them before they even know to ask you, help them figure out how to make their strategies and plans real. How do you then enable them? That's enablement. It's like, get in front of the business, with the business. And what happens, especially to technologists, is that we get so married into the weeds of things.
Yes.
We get so tactical. We got to do our day jobs, and we want to do it well, and we want to progress, and we want to grow our careers. And so we think results, results, results. And I want this room to think about results and relationships, relationships, relationships. It makes all the difference in the world. And now that I'm personally in this place where I'm desiring to become an executive officer of a bigger company. Like, I can create my own business for sure, but when I'm hanging out with CEOs, they have an ability to sit down, ask questions, and really understand the needs of whoever they're partnering with, their customers, their business partners, the potential investors. And that's something we have to do. We're great at that. Like, every Hispanic I know can build a relationship.
Yes.
They know how to party. They know how to connect with people. Like, bring that special skill, because it's special, to the table, and it makes a big difference. And as security practitioners, I think that's why you see such successful people up here on the panels, because they know how to do that, and we got to coin it. It's just my thought. Okay, So then when you think about like artificial intelligence helping the security space, like how do you envision it or see it helping the tools, the capabilities, the good guys fight the good fight, us protecting companies? Talk about that a little bit. And maybe we'll start with you, Miguel.
Yeah. You know, I think this is becoming kind of the arms race of, you know, we can do the best security when you have the most visibility and you have the way to add context rapidly. And that's what these systems are built for. You give it big data sets, you can give it context, you can model. Therefore, like it's while it could be the world's greatest weapon against, it's also the world's greatest defense against as well. But it's really going to come down to who can program it the best and who can give it what's important to each organization. And to play a little bit about like how to build a relationship is, do you understand what your business needs to protect? Because you're not going to protect everything, and you're not going to get infinite investment, you're not going to get infinite people. But you know, can you summarize quickly to an executive who you need to sell to, and every day we're selling, always be closing, right? Is the phrase to be able to understand how to influence an organization. Can you dictate 5 things, right, in an elevator to an executive that you want to protect the organization against, and that story enables the business? And this is where, if you can codify that in yourself, you can codify it into the software and algorithm in the machine and into the AI. So it knows what data to look at, what systems to look at, what controls to enable, and that's how you beat 1,000 people, to Rob's point, 1,000 people that now have nation state capabilities, 10,000 people, 100,000 people, because it's not going to be that organization. The second thing is no matter what anyone says about AI, I don't look at it as artificial. I look at it as augmented intelligence, and it's augmenting, at the end of the day, a human relationship, a human interaction, and a human decision, right? It's an augmenting type of technology. And it doesn't know what to augment unless it understands the person and the company and the things that it's serving, right? And that's why, as security professionals, as technologists, if you're not playing with this stuff, if you don't understand what a vector is, you don't understand, you know, the cloud infrastructure that enables it, you don't know how to speak AI at this point, you're already 2 years behind, right? You have to know how to speak it to be able to secure it. You got to know how to speak it to be able to sell it. You got to know how to speak it to defend against it. So my recommendation is get to know AI, right? Let it be doing things in your life, in your company, then you know how to defend it. So you're not waiting for I'm going to turn this thing on, Manus AI, right? And you're like, a new one comes out, an LLM comes out, I think it's like 2 every 10 minutes or something. There's 1.4 million LLMs on Hugging Face right now. You're not expected to know what each one of them do, but they all have the same core structure, algorithm base, to where they get their information from, how to do access, and that's what you have to use the defenses against to secure.
And if I could just add to that, I love everything you said. I think it's, you know, I think people they're shying away from it because they're afraid of what it could potentially do in terms of replacing the humans, right? And I think that's a really big misconception, in my opinion. I think that, you know, the idea AI is meant to, in my opinion, is to help streamline and build efficiencies and help us move a little bit faster, allowing us to be more strategic in our approach, right? We still are going to need that data analytics, right? We're still going to need that human element to take the output, right, the AI output, and read through it and understand, okay, here's what we're going to prioritize, or here's where we're going to focus our attention. We're going to look over there because the output says X. So AI helps us, enhances sort of what we're doing. It just helps us do it in a faster but more strategic way, I think.
I mean, as security professionals, we're constantly thinking about how do we optimize.
Right.
Right? And I think something to think about with our teams is, where are we wasting human hours and human time when something else could be doing that?
Right.
And then we could refocus that time and energy on what only humans can do.
Right.
Relationship, communication, decision-making often.
That's right.
And then how do we use that to sharpen and tighten that decision loop? Because in this game, the fastest to the decision point and the closest to making the right decision is who always wins. And tools help us do that better, not worse.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to engage you. So if there's questions, you know, please come up, ask questions. Let me ask a question, show of hands. How many of you have a primary care physician? Show your hands, like how many of you have a doctor? How many of you know if your doctor was like head of class, mid of class, low class, barely graduated with their PhD? How many know? Yeah, none of you. One, two, there's a couple.
What about your CISO?
Yeah, that's great.
There you go.
That's great. So, you know, you go to your doctor for the most important thing in this world, your health. And you don't even know if your doctor's good or not. And 9 times out of 10, they're incentivized just to put you on meds and to, you know, solve a symptom, not a problem. And I'll relate this back to security in a second here. With artificial intelligence, I want everyone to start thinking about it as it's not a tool, okay? It's an actual expert thing that you use, a person, a worker. For doctors, and within this example, imagine a day where every physician is leveled up because they're interacting with an expert in the medical field that actually has access to all your information in a heartbeat and can actually serve out customized health decisions to you. And so the people that barely graduated are now the best physicians in the world. Now let's talk about security. Like, each and every one of you have a team of people that you're probably thinking about, like who's good, who's bad, you know, stack and rank them. And you always wish I had better security people because it's a hard field. It's hard to find great people, and the great people are taking the primo jobs. Well, imagine AI making everybody great. So you get the bots are battling, right? The nation states, the companies, we got to have our tools and our technologies activated with the bot-to-bot stuff, and I'm trying to simplify here. But getting humans smarter, making people experts, making you an expert in whatever you want to be, I think agentic AI in particular, and large language models, are going to raise the intelligence levels of humans tremendously, especially for those that seek it and use it. So how are you using artificial intelligence today in your day job to make you better and make you smarter? And I'd encourage us to think about that.
Ethically.
Security, well, ethically. We're going to get there right now.
Yeah.
He knows where I'm going.
That's right. The right way.
The right way. There is a right way, but you know, when I think about like how it can really help us as security practitioners be better, it's like try to get us ahead of the game, get people smarter, you know, automate as much as we can, but yeah, get some great people. But then there's some risk to it. And there's some governance around what you need to do, right?
Yes.
So maybe we can start with you, Liz, on this one. And how do you, one more thing before we get into this question.
You haven't scared us enough, Eddie?
What's that?
You didn't make it scary enough?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we're all scared now.
But it's so relevant because you said when you put the blockers up on your company, you know what happened?
They go around it.
The second they did that, people brought out their phones, right? And they said, look, I got ChatGPT here, let me copy and paste and whatnot. So how do you build governance and risk management around not controlling, but making AI ethical and safe?
Yes.
I think it starts with awareness. I think educating people and helping them understand how it's not just at work, right? Because a lot of the habits that we build at home, we bring them to work, which is why it's important to have our controls and things in place. But I think it's important to obviously have policies and procedures, a good governance framework, have good relationships with legal and compliance. But most importantly, I think transparency is key, right? We as cybersecurity professionals have to make it clear and understandable instead of talking to people in bits and bytes and scaring people. I think we have to help them understand why it's important to use it ethically, why, you know, how to use it, right? So if we're going to introduce AI or any technology into the organization, educating people about the way to use it, the proper way to use it, and putting controls, obviously, and having controls in place. Assessments, right? Risk assessments as well, continuous audits and things of that nature to make sure that we're on top of our game as it relates to that policies around the world. Rob?
Elizabeth, you said it perfectly. I'd only add, buy yourself time. So like one of the things we did by hard blocking, one, we could. So not many enterprises could. And so many CISOs called us and said, how did you do that? Can you show us how to do that? But then two, it bought us the time to create all of the frameworks and to create all the training and to ensure that people at least understood how to use the technology in a safe way. Otherwise, it's a free-for-all, right? And sometimes in our business, it really is just about getting people to take the time to understand what it means to use the technology safely. Their hearts are in the right places.
Right.
They want to do the right thing. They want the company to be successful. They want to optimize their workloads, but at what cost? And how do you make sure they understand the cost, the business is making the right trade-off, and then you're enabling them to do it safely and securely. So buying time, I think, as security leaders, just helps you make the right decision.
Yeah, and one of the biggest foundational elements, right, to the governance and any governance program is, does it speak the language of the business, right? Because there's an AI strategy in your organization. There's a chief technology officer, chief digital officer, CIO, right? Whatever, someone owns that. This is what we want AI to do. And I can't create a governance model that stops the organization from finding the next market differentiating product to speed up medical analysis, right? Like I'm now tone deaf to what my company needs to go do. Right. Yeah. So when someone has that and they see you're building something that is a clear blocker, we have very smart, innovative people in every one of our companies. They figure out the way to go around it. So you've built an unsustainable governance model. Does your governance match your company? Do you speak in your company's language? Are you in the right forums, rooms? Do you understand the process of how they build technology, how they're going to bring AI in, right? Because you can't teach someone who's not willing to listen. You can only block so many things that are easy to block before you get to the hard stuff. And I think all of that really needs to be at the core center of, do you understand the enabling part of your job? And then you put the defenses around that.
Yeah, and if I could just, sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, I was going to add to that, the great point, right, is the security strategy has to be aligned with the business, right? The organization is going in this way. How is our security strategy going to align to ensure, right, that they're going to get there securely and they're taking the appropriate business risk?
Absolutely.
And that takes trust.
That's right.
And that trust is not built overnight. You have to earn that trust.
Lost quickly.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
Oh, we got questions. One more add-on to Miguel. Just a question for you. Do you have a governance council? Like, have you set up an executive council or steering? Can you just maybe give 30 seconds on that?
So I'll take the AI. I mean, there's obviously the larger governance councils, right? But for AI, there's a digital and AI council that has the remit of what does the company want to achieve by using artificial intelligence, right? So that they're setting that boundary up there, and security is involved in that. Then there's a responsible AI model where you say, we understand how it's coming in now from the digital council. What are we going to put in place? What checks can we do? Again, we can't slow this thing down. We have to be seen as we're in the car, we're making the car go faster, or we're putting fuel in the car. Your job is not to slash the tires or put the governor on it, because they're going to kick you out of the car.
Right.
So how do you create a responsible AI, which means we're not stopping you from using it? How do you use it to not have a Samsung example, not have a UHC example? I mean, there's plenty of examples of AI gone rogue, and then it defeated the business strategy, and then you lose that trust, right? So to maintain that trust, you have to say, I'm in the car with you. My job is to help you navigate you in a faster way, and I'm going to bring a solution into the vehicle. So I think that's how you accelerate that. But yeah, the governance has to speak the language of the organization.
I love it.
And responsible AI is just a great term because, again, it's not blocking AI. You could say AI risk, but then they just think it's another risk management thing. No, this is use this stuff the right way in accordance with how the company wants to work, and everyone's protected in that.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
All right, we got a question up there. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is 𝐬𝐬𝐧'𝐭 Tovar, Information Security Officer for Citi. So welcome, everybody, by the way, to our headquarters. So I have a question for you, and it's basically businesses, they want to take advantage of GenAI. That is obvious, right?
Yeah.
And we as a information security professional, we need to make sure that whatever we're gonna to implement is gonna be implemented in the most secure way possible, right? So now we have this new kid on the block, agentic, right? That's the new kid of the block. But we are still facing challenge with GenAI, right? But our business want agentic already. So what is your strategy to assess the risk related to something new when you are still trying to understand GenAI control?
Yeah. The simplest way that we've done it is we talk about feasibility of what they want to do from a technology perspective in 3 lenses. Just very simple, doesn't have to get technical, right? The data, right? Do we have the data? Is it organized correctly? Do we have rights to it in most of these cases? Like, can we use this data, right? And is it available in a way that the agent can understand, whether it's agentic or just straight computation and analysis? Second thing is does the infrastructure support it, right? Is it serving 5 people, 500 people, or I'm letting it loose to 7 million patients, right? Like, it's the feasibility actually there. And the third one is access, right? Do we have an ability to control the bad things somebody will do, right? We had a very recent conversation about using AI for HR, right? And how scary that can be. Because for every HR analyst that can, get a great benefit out of it, there's an employee who's going, I'd love to compare my salary with everyone else in my grade and see where I'm at, right? So can I create the access barrier, right, to go do it? And then those conversations get very simple from there, because once you start having I'd love for you to use that agent, but the data you want to go use is in 17 different systems, it's going to take this long to go do it, that's not a security problem, right? The access thing is also not a security problem, because you're not architecting the solution. You may have a COTS product or developing it. So it really is about just getting on the same level playing field with 3 very basic elements. And the conversation is not about security stopping anything. It's you're having a technology-to-technology conversation, and you're trying to enable them, but you're being real about what the cost of that is to entry. What's the barrier of entry?
I agree. I was going to say, it's just readiness, right? Understanding what the organization's readiness is as it relates to bringing in additional technology, right? And how it's going to work with existing and old technical debt. We were just having a conversation in the back too, right? So,
Look, when you think of technology, do you think of it as having interests? Okay? And I mean that in a very specific way. As an example, I won't mention the organization, but I got a call once from a customer who said, hey, I'm being spammed by OCI. You're DDoSing me. What are you doing? And obviously, we looked into it, and it turned out that there was an agentic AI, that was really interested in their website. It made no sense, right? We took hours thinking through it, but it basically was DDoSing their infrastructure because it was really interested. So we called the company who owned the agent and said, hey, leave this IP alone. And they said, yeah, we don't know why it's so interested in this. Like, we don't know either. And obviously they redirected it.
Right.
But that's not how we think of technology today, right? Like, the idea that the technology might have an interest that I don't control. It just so happened these people sold like military paraphernalia, and so it was a little bit scary. But the point is, the way we think about technology has to change, just like the way we interface with it as well. If the technology can have an interest, how do you control that? And how do you know what happens if that interest goes awry? I mentioned earlier an AI red team, right? An AI offsec. Well, maybe that's a way that you can evaluate what happens if your agent gets really interested in something it shouldn't. And how do you manage that? How do you build the right controls? I'm telling you, this is a real story.
You got me thinking about Terminator.
like,
Yeah, Skynet. You described Skynet.
do you remember that AI robot?
The human's
that
the
went
problem.
nuts recently?
I'm just saying.
Do you remember the AI
had to turn it
robot
off.
that
Yeah.
plugged down
Yeah.
in the factory?
The
You
kill
had to
switch.
turn it off.
We got another question up here.
Where's the kill switch?
Yeah.
Hello. Okay.
What's up?
So, hello everybody. My name is Bailey Canella. Currently a cyber GRC analyst at Deloitte, and I'll be joining JP Morgan as a technology internal audit associate.
Nice.
Go.
Someone tell Pat he's coming.
So my question is, as AI transforms the role of CISO and just cybersecurity programs as a whole, what skills or focus areas should early career professionals prioritize to stay relevant and contribute meaningfully over the next 5 to 10 years? To follow that, a question I have for each of you in the panel, if you were to start your career all over, when you guys were early career yourself, and let's say you had the opportunity to start either on a cyber risk team, a cloud risk team or an AI risk team? I know they're all pretty similar, but which of those paths do you believe would be the best starting point to, I guess, start out your career within, I guess, GRC or, just building your career within cybersecurity?
That's a great question.
I'll answer your second question first, and then we can answer your other one. But before I would start any risk management profession whatsoever, I have to like work with the technology first, right? And I think that is sometimes a skip step, right? So cloud risk, right? Do you understand cloud infrastructure? Have you worked in it? Have you done cloud engineering? Because how do you assess risk for something that you're just not understanding, like how this thing connects to each other with EC2 versus S3 versus, right? These things they're important because you're telling a technologist who lives in this space, you can't do something because I'm afraid of what this will do. But you can't articulate to them what that is. And then the worst thing you can do as a security professional, and hopefully no one in the room does this, is walk up to a infrastructure specialist who's doing a cloud, and then you just come up to them with vulnerability findings and go, fix these.
Right.
Right? Like it's a bad conversation. So I'd say before I would start the risk or security conversation, I want to spend some time on the infrastructure, on the engineering side, understand how this thing works, right? Maybe it's the equivalent of like taking the toaster apart before I figured out how to put it back together, right? VCR, those kind of things, right? So that was my perspective on the second question.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. Oh. So I would say...
Saved by the bell.
Yeah.
Saved by the bell.
I'd say hit us up after. You
great.
saw the hands that went up. There's a lot of security practitioners in here. I want to thank you all for the great panel. Thank you very much. Give them a round of applause.